Part 39. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi Y. Chapter 381. Bai Qianchun raised her lips to them in a friendly manner, making them shrink their heads in horror and look at the line. Then they looked away and sat up straight in their seats. The time is coming. Mu Tao looked at their cowardly behavior and felt disgusted. They were really worthless. Then he quickly sat up straight and stared at the screen in front of his desk with his eyes. The time countdown in the upper right corner of the screen had reached 000000, and it was time for the exam. At this point, more than half of the people in classroom 308, where Bai Qianchun is located, have arrived, and at least 40 more people have not arrived within the scheduled 15 minutes. Then the mechanical horn sounded without hesitation, and the familiar ding-dong sound came. Ding-dong, the exam time has begun. Candidates, please prepare for the literary test. The literary test lasts for 3 hours and has a total of 2,000 questions, including humanities, history, machinery, mecha, medicinal materials, medical care, materials, mathematics, etc., comprehensive all-rounder, all subjects. The questions are divided into 3 categories: multiple choice questions, fill in the blank questions, and large scale questions. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 point, each fill in the blank question is worth 5 points, and each big question is worth 20 points. The total score is 3,550 points, passing points are 1,800 points. If you pass, you can enter the next martial arts test. The test score ranking list is in the upper right corner of the screen. Candidates can check it at any time. The top 10 in the literary test will have priority in the next martial arts test. Note, the first military academy wants hard-working students with real talents and preparation, so remember not to whisper to each other during the exam. If anyone is found to be cheating, he or she will be immediately disqualified from the exam. The exam starts now. Time is entering exam countdown, 3 hours. After the announcement in the classroom, the school-wide announcement also sounded. Ding-dong. Candidates who have not yet entered the examination room, please enter the examination room as soon as possible. The literary test has begun. If candidates have not entered the designated examination room within 10 minutes, the examination will be cancelled. Qualification. Now starts the 10-minute countdown. The remaining time is 9 minutes and 58 seconds, 9 minutes and 57 seconds. The countdown sounds outside the classroom all the time like a curse. The candidates who were still running the marathon outside suddenly felt extremely anxious. They were anxious and out of breath. The double pressure of psychological and physical strength cast a shadow on their hearts. A huge shadow. Some people are panicked, some are anxious, and some grit their teeth and refuse to give up, trying their best to make the final sprint. The seniors and seniors of the first military academy who were ordered not to come out of the dormitory building looked at the candidates who were still running on the road and sweating. They expressed emotion, look at the juniors and seniors, and suddenly realized that our previous entrance examination was really so happy. Yes, when we first came to take the liberal arts exam, there was no such thing as a marathon. There was an automatic navigation to help us take us to the exam point. Now, look at it now. Before the liberal arts exam even started, a small person came to meet us. The test was a critical hit as soon as it came. Hey, it seems I wasn't being alarmist before. This year's entrance exam has really become much more difficult. After passing the exam and qualifying for admission, they have to pay their own way. It's so cruel. Fortunately, I took the exam last year. In the Fanchun Hotel, the couple from the Su family breathed a sigh of relief as they watched the 3 children already seated in their seats during the live broadcast. And Huang, I didn't expect that the child Xiaochun would be the first to sit in the seat. I was afraid that she would be weak physically as a girl, but now it seems that our son is the weakest among the 3 of them. Su's father also nodded seriously. If I had known, I would have asked Xiaokan to practice more with his brother. Even if he didn't practice physical training techniques, it would have been better to practice fighting skills. Seeing the crowd of talents on the live broadcast, his son's echelon on the West Campus was pushed to the middle, and Sue's father was also worried. And Huan comforted him, "Don't be in a hurry, just arrive at the exam location on time. The next literary test is our son's strong point. He usually reads a lot of books, so there will definitely be no problem in the literary test." Father Su nodded, and then clicked on the separate live broadcast room in the classroom where Bai Qianchun and Di Yan were located. Along with Su Kan, the 3 live broadcast room screens appeared in the room and they watched together. And Huan was watching the live broadcast while peeling the fruit. She glanced at the live broadcast room where Di Yan was sitting, and felt worried. Di Yan's grandmother has told me that her eldest grandson doesn't like to study. I don't know that he is like this. How about the palindrome test? This is indeed a problem. The literary test is not easy. The two of them felt uneasy, but the 3 people in the live broadcast room had officially entered the exam state with serious faces. Bai Qianchun looked at the questions that popped up on the screen, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. They were all the types of questions in the question bank that she had seen this year. Although there were some changes, it was a change of soup rather than medicine. She moved and adjusted. With a comfortable posture, you pick up the reading pen beside you and start answering questions on the virtual screen. Brushing, her beautiful and cold phoenix eyes twinkled, her movements were light, and she wrote with energy. She almost completed a multiple-choice question with just one glance, and then turned to the next page, and the next page, and the next page. There are a total of 2,000 questions, and the time is only 3 hours. If she wants to complete them all, she must complete more than 660 questions per hour, and at least 11 questions per minute. This does not include multiple-choice questions, fill-in-the-blank questions, and big questions. If the questions need to be distinguished, the fill-in-the-blank questions will definitely take longer than the multiple-choice questions, and the answer to the big questions will definitely take longer, otherwise you will not be worth 20 points for each question. Therefore, the previous multiple-choice questions must be answered quickly, and the faster the better, otherwise there will be less time left for fill-in-the-blank questions and big questions, especially the big questions. Although it accounts for at least 50 questions, in the large number of 2,000 questions it only accounts for 1/40th of the question, but its weight reaches nearly 1/3. It occupies a large proportion and must not be underestimated. Sufficient time must be reserved for these big questions. In this way, it is necessary to shorten the time for multiple-choice questions and fill-in-the-blank questions. 1 second is the best for multiple-choice questions. Bai Qianchun's mind is precise and smart, and his brain that has gone through countless question banks can do this. Moreover, while answering questions, she also saw many multiple-choice questions that were exactly the same as those in the question bank, which greatly reduced her thinking time. In addition, turning pages was smooth, and she could answer 2 questions in 1 second without any lag. Questionable. There are many people in the same situation as her. There are many smart people in this star, and some of them have been learning this knowledge since they were young. They are more prepared than Bai Qianchun, who has only been in the star for 2 years and has only 1 year to prepare for the exam. They have solved more questions, done more questions, and have richer knowledge storage. These are advantages that Bai Qianchun cannot match. So even though Bai Qianchun came here to be first and was working hard on the questions right now, it wouldn't be that easy to widen the gap with them and come out on top. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 382. During the exam, the candidates cannot see the specific questions they did in the live broadcast room. They can only see the expressions and movements of the candidates, so it is difficult to judge how they did in the exam, so they watched it in the live broadcast for a short time. Soon my interest waned, and then I switched to the liberal arts test score ranking list. The ranking list of candidates for the liberal arts examination is the most intuitive place that can reflect the examination performance of the candidates. The top 10 with test scores are currently in fierce competition. The Su family couple also worked hard to find the test scores of their 3 children on the ranking list. Candidate test score ranking. First place, Shen Biu, candidate number 03, score 69 points. Second place, Shui Weiqian, candidate number 10, score 68 points. Third place, Shui Wei, candidate number 01, score 67 points. Fourth place, Bai Qianshun, candidate number 19005, score 66 points. Fifth place, Su Kan, candidate number 19003, score 65 points. Sixth place, Mu Tao, candidate number 11, score 64 points. Seventh place, Shen Junhao, candidate number 06, score 63 points. Eighth place, Shen Junyi, candidate number 07, score 63 points. Ninth place, Bai Qianshun, candidate number 1990, score 62 points. 10th place, Pui, candidate number 3009, score 61 points. Hey, how come there are 2 Xiaochuns in the top 10 of this test score ranking? And Huang looked at the ranking with her eyes blurred. Uncle Su was taciturn but careful. He clicked on the screen and said in a dull voice, "Look at the candidate number. Our son's candidate number is over 19,000. Look at Xiao Chun, who has a similar candidate number to our son. They registered at the same time and their candidate numbers are also similar." And Huang slapped her thigh, with a smile on her face. "Yes, you are very careful. The candidate number is similar to our son, so isn't that the 4th place? 1 place higher than our son, this girl Xiao Chun. Yes, when I first took a look at Muyuan Xing Airport, I knew she was a capable girl. No, she really is capable. When our son enters the first military academy, it will be helpful to have such an acquaintance to help each other. Can't be wrong." Uncle Su also nodded seriously. His son is like him, shy and doesn't like talking to strangers. It's very difficult for his son to take the initiative to make friends. I don't blame his wife for being so worried. She met a nice child. They need to make some friends, all for the purpose of creating a bond for their son, so that they can have a companion at school. The 2 parents, who were worried about their son, continued to stare at the score ranking list seriously. This time has just begun. The top 10 candidates ranked in less than a minute are nothing. They have to maintain it for a long time. It was pretty impressive, so the couple ate fruit while staring at the rankings. Sure enough, before the 2 seconds were up, the test score ranking list changed. The candidate named Pu Yi, who was ranked last in the top 10, fell down, and the candidate Li Jiadan, who was ranked 11th, came up. After that, Gao Dan came up again. He made great progress, overtaking number 1990 Bai Qianshun, who was ranked 9th, and Shen Junyi, who was originally ranked number 8, occupying the 8th position. He maintained the 8th position for several minutes and fell, pushing number 1990 Bai Qian below. Chun and Shen Junyi were pressed to death. It can be seen that this was not a sudden outburst, but something real. Within these few minutes, the positions of the top 4 also changed drastically. Shui Weiqian pushed Shen Biu down and climbed to the 1st place, but was soon overtaken by Shen Biu, regaining the number 1 position. Shui Wei and Bai Qianshun also experienced a fierce competition for 3rd place. From time to time, Bai Qianshun would surpass Shui Wei, and from time to time, Shui Wei would rise up and regain the 3rd position, or even overtake him. Shui Weiqian, who was ranked 2nd, was ranked second for a few seconds. Of course, Bai Qianchun is not willing to lag behind, and competes with Shui Wei'ai and Shui Weiqian for the second position from time to time. However, she is often ranked third. Only once did she get lucky and meet Shui Weiqian. During the stagnation period, Wei Qian, Shui Wei'ai and Shen Biu, who was always number one, climbed to the top spot and occupied it for 3 seconds, but were quickly taken back by Shen Biu. Bai Qianchun himself didn't have time to watch the test score rankings, but the Su family couple outside the live broadcast watched it with excitement and ups and downs. She passed the others and the couple clenched their fists excitedly, one shouted out happily, and the other did not shout but smiled with his teeth exposed. After she fell back, the couple sighed again, and then murmured encouragement. If so, he looked at her ranking expectantly, wanting to see her continue to compete for the top spot. She was even more excited than Bai Qianchun was for this exam, and she wished she could take her place in the exam at full speed every minute. In comparison, their son Su Kan's 5th place has been stable, and he has maintained his 5th place from the beginning to now. The following 6 Mu Tao and 7th Shen Junhao also maintained their original rankings. In the fierce battle for the top 10, these 3 people seemed to have entered the retirement period early, looking calm, solid, and unmoving. This made the couple who were originally worried about their son no longer excited about their son. They simply went to watch the top 4 in the fierce competition and cheer for Bai Qianchun. In the next minute, 2 minutes, even half an hour, or an hour, the competition for the top 10 is still very fierce. During this period, there are also some rising stars, such as Ye Yang, Jian Yang, Lin Fizhu, etc. They made it into the top 10 to show their face, occupying the 8th, 9th, and 10th positions. Afterwards, some people fell down again due to fierce competition, and some tenaciously climbed to the top 10. Even the 5 or 67 seniors, namely Su Kan, Mu Tao, and Shen Junhao, were impacted by these rising stars. By the hour and a half, Shen Junhao fell, Mu Tao also hung on, and there was a 50-50 tie between Chen and his competitor, with each taking 5th and half of the time. In this way, in turn, the top 4 rankings of Shen Biu, Shui Wei'ai, Shui Weiqian and Bai Qianchun were the most stable. They were not surpassed by rising stars, but the competition among the 4 of them was intertwined. Hours later, the 4 of them were still some distance away from the 5th place. If there are no accidents, the 1st place in the literary test will be among these 4 people. The principals in the principal's room and the onlookers outside the live broadcast had their eyes wide open. The number of onlookers in the classroom live broadcast room where these 4 people were located soared all the way up, almost overwhelming the live broadcast room. After finally solving the troublesome matter, Fenju Yuma, who had not even cleaned up yet, rushed into the live broadcast room of Bai Qianchun's classroom and was squeezed out. The live broadcast room gave him a few words: "The number of people is overloaded, please come back later." Fen Yu's eyes widened with a sullen look on his face, trying to pull back the group of star thieves he met just now to whip their corpses. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 383. Bai Qianchun was not in the expectant mood of the principals and live broadcast viewers at this time. She was frowning, staring at the blue screen in front of her that was still displaying the title. The brows on her face were tightly furrowed and she did not let go for a long time. It was she who underestimated this literary test. These questions really covered astronomy and geography at the top and humanistic knowledge at the bottom. They also extended to mecha repair, medical treatment, superpower training, etc. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is inclusive of all rivers. She had gone through the first military academy's literary test question bank in the past 10 years, but none of the questions were as tricky as this time. It could be said that the difficulty was increased by 5 stars, and some even set up small traps. For example, several of the questions were from the library. The question looks exactly the same at first glance, but in fact, 2 or a few words have been slightly changed, but it is enough to make the question completely different from the original answer in the question bank. In high-intensity and high-speed practice, it's easy to fall into such a small trap. If Bai Qianchun hadn't sharpened his eyesight due to acupuncture, he would have been fooled by this little trap. That's not all, there will also be some memory questions in the multiple choice questions. What are memory questions? For example, if you are answering the questions very hard, a question will pop up and ask, how many questions about the use of matches have you done in the previous questions? Bai Qianchun. How to deal with such a question? No matter how good her brain is, assuming she has a photographic memory, she still has to pull out her memory and look through it, and then count how many questions she has encountered. In this way, time will be wasted. Memory questions like this are so disgusting. It's better to just do a calculation question that requires many steps. At least with Bai Qianchun's mental arithmetic ability, no matter how many steps there are, it will be faster than recalling the memory questions again. The most important thing is that memory questions like this will pop up from time to time among the multiple choice questions, and they will appear from time to disgust people. Even Bai Qianchun had to admit that there was something a little ruthless about the literary test at the first military academy. In the end, I had no choice but to waste my time, so I had to choose memory questions like this with my eyes closed. If asked about medical questions, she would be impressed, but if asked about matches and machinery, she would be impressed. Yes, Bai Qianchun is really not sharp enough to answer the question. In addition, the multiple choice questions will also involve some in-depth questions, such as how to repair matches in depth. What special parts are needed? This is an in-depth expansion of the original basic knowledge that needs to be learned. People who have not studied the mecha major in advance cannot answer it. In addition, it also involves matters related to medical treatment. It is probably because the medicine pills of Muyuangxing have been so popular in the past year. There are many topics about medical treatment and pills, and they are even somewhat frequent. This gave Bai Qianchun an advantage. She couldn't do the in-depth expansion questions on mecha machinery maintenance, but how could she, the original founder, not know the in-depth expansion questions on Yaoanzi medical? So she answered these questions quite smoothly. Of course, in addition to the in-depth expansion questions on mecha and medical science, there are also in-depth expansion questions for other majors, such as history, conducting department, music department, etc. It can be seen that although the first military academy is very tricky with the questions this time, and the difficulty is several times more difficult than the admissions test in previous years, and is trying its best to screen out a large number of candidates, it also gives opportunities to those who are in a certain field. On the one hand, he is an extremely outstanding student. In short, after completing 1,500 multiple-choice questions, the originally ambitious and high-spirited candidates became a little tired. Bai Qianchun was no exception and suffered some blows. She frowned and thought, out of the 1,500 multiple-choice questions, she could only guarantee that 1,000 of them would get points at most, but the other 500 questions were ambiguous, or even chosen at random, just by chance. Let's see if she's lucky enough. This was completely different from her previous expectation of a complete victory against all opponents and a massive killing spree. Bai Qianchun pursed her lips, and subconsciously clicked on the test score ranking list on the right with a feeling of depression in her heart, and opened another small screen to spread it out. Candidate test score ranking. First place, Shengbiu, candidate number 03, score 1,320 points. Second place, Shui Weiqian, candidate number 10, score 1,310 points. Third place, Bai Chun, candidate number, 19,005, score, 1,299 points. Fourth place, Shui Wei, candidate number, 01, score, 1,280 points. Fifth place, Su Kan, candidate number, 19,003, score, 1,110 points. Sixth place, Mu Tao, candidate number, 11, score 1,009 points. Seventh place, Jian Yang, candidate number, 1,319, score, 1,001 points. Bai Chun scanned the top 10 with one glance and breathed a sigh of relief. She was not too bad, ranked third. It seems that out of the more than 400 ambiguous questions that can be chosen at will, more than 200 of them are correct, which is pretty good luck. Looking at Sheng Biu, who ranked first, the difference between her and her scores was only 21 points, which was not a big gap. This showed that these questions that were somewhat difficult for Bai Chun were difficult for other candidates. It's also quite difficult. This puts her at ease. After a quick glance, Bai Chun calmed down and continued to look at the next fill-in-the-blank questions. The 150 fill-in-the-blank questions still follow the same torture method as the multiple-choice questions. The basics are the easiest in the front, and the middle starts to become more difficult. The next 50 questions also expand and deepen the special nouns in certain fields. Those who don't learn understand a remote and rare term that a professional cannot answer. Bai Chun sighed slightly, forget it, the ideal is an ideal, but the reality is skinny. She has a good understanding of in-depth professional and rare terms related to medicine. After Mu Yuangxing's in-depth exploration of the medical pharmacy industry that year, coupled with the exchanges between a group of older students from the Pharmacists Association, she is already considered a top expert in the medical field. She knew all these in-depth and rare terms in the medical field, but she was more than enough to answer a few medical-related fill-in-the-blank questions. However, apart from the medical field, she didn't know much about other in-depth questions. Except for the military command department she wanted to apply for, she had read a few books in depth beforehand. She could still answer a few questions, half guessing and half guessing. She had to fill in the blanks in this area, but she could hardly figure out other in-depth questions about history, mechas, etc., but she couldn't just rely on luck like multiple-choice questions, so she could only skip them blankly. Fill in the answers to what he knew, and skip over what he didn't know, never giving in. So Bai Chun quickly completed 150 fill-in-the-blank questions, leaving only 50 major questions. But she also didn't have much time left, so she hurried and hurried. 3 hours passed quickly, and now there was less than an hour left. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Luzi. Chapter 384. The candidates who were asked about 50 questions were equally tortured and wanted to live and die. The same pattern, the same rules, the same progression from easy to difficult, hey. The candidates in the examination room felt very sad and exclaimed that the person who asked the questions was really tricky. They almost cried when they answered the questions. People outside the examination room, after getting the examination questions and scanning them with interest, also said that the questions were so scary. Hey, the teacher who came up with the question is so stupid. Especially the seniors of the first military academy who were still locked in the dormitory and not allowed to go out, they all shed a few drops of crocodile tears for the juniors who were trying hard to get into the first military academy. It's tragic, it's really tragic. It's really difficult for the juniors and girls of this class. Look at what the question teachers asked, in-depth expansion questions. The sophomores and seniors stared at it, and the juniors and seniors were also shocked. This is not them. Is it new content that was just taught in class some time ago? Just put it directly into the test questions of the academic exam. The seniors and seniors seriously doubted that their teachers did not want to accept students anymore. How many people had to be screened out in such a big wave? It was simply not at the same level as their entrance exam. The fact was just as they thought, the 3 hours came quickly, and nearly half of the candidates were cut off by the big waves. After the time expired, some people's faces were pale and their eyes were dull, as if they had lost their souls. Some people were in pain and wailing, some people had calm expressions and looked stable. Although Bai Jianchun was not one of the three, she still looked a little bad. This time the exam was really difficult. It was so difficult that she felt a little wilted. But she is guaranteed to pass the liberal arts exam. She did not leave in a hurry. Instead, she sat in her original position and looked at the ranking list of candidates. She had not had time to look carefully while answering questions before, but now she had time. Except for a few candidates who were already sure that they would fail the exam and began to break down and cry, the other candidates, like her, stayed where they were after the time expired, and then immediately opened the ranking list to look for their names and scores. Bai Jianchun finally scored 2,530 points. She broke out at the last moment and answered a big medical-related question correctly. She pocketed all 20 points without losing a single point. Then she overtook Shui Weiqian, who was in front of her, and sat down. Got into second place. Ranked first is still Shen Biu, with a total score of 2,540, a full 10 points higher than Bai Jianchun, which made Bai Jianchun a lot more interested in him. Shen Biu, as soon as he heard this name, he knew that this should be Shen Beining's biological brother. However, he didn't know much about him, Bai Jianchun. We only knew that he was famous for his talent at a young age. Even in the dream, Bai Jianchun, I haven't seen him either. He seems to have stayed in the first military academy and is a top student. That's all she knew. She didn't know any other information about Shen Biu. As for the third place, it was Shui Weiqian, who was squeezed out by her at the last moment. There was only 2 points between him and Bai Jianchun. This person must be very angry now. After all, the second place was almost his. The difference between the third place and the runner-up is still there. What they didn't expect was that at the last moment, Su Kan, who was originally ranked 5th, actually broke out at the last moment and moved up 1 place, pushing Shui Wei, who had always thought that the 4th position was stable, to the 5th position is gone, which is really shocking. It's surprising that Bai Jianchun can surpass Shui Weiqian, but Su Kan can't surpass Shui Wei. Within 3 hours, Bai Jianchun and Shui Weiqian always took turns to sit in the second place. This means that Bai Jianchun was also in contention, so she made a last-minute comeback, overtaking Shui Weiqian and climbing into second place. Although it was surprising, it was not too shocking. But Su Kan and Shui Wei are different. Because the positions of the top 4 are extremely stable, the onlookers have already tacitly understood that the top 4 are those 4 people. However, Su Kan, who has been wandering around 5th and 6th, unexpectedly at the last moment, he suddenly overtook Shui Wei and climbed to the 4th place, which surprised everyone. Suddenly, Su Kan's hot discussion surpassed that of Bai Jianchun, and everyone even went to Su Kan's live broadcast review to see how he quickly accumulated dozens of points to surpass Shui Wei at the last moment. Now that the signal was back, Bai Jianchun looked at the lively barrage on Xing Wang and the live broadcast room. He felt a little curious and looked at it a few more times. Then she continued to look at the test score ranking list of candidates. Ya Yang did not disappoint her and also advanced into the top 10 list, becoming 7th with a score of 2,470 points. Next is Jian Yang, ranked 15th with a score of 2,330 points, followed by Leng Xiao, who is ranked 25th with a score of 2,200 points. Bai Jianchun squinted her eyes and continued to scroll down the list. Feng Tanggui ranked 26th, just below Leng Xiao, with a score of 2,199 points. There was also Quan Lang, whom they met in the hotel and came over with. Bai Qianchun also checked his score. He was ranked 293rd with a score of 1990 points. Later, at the 783rd position, Bai Qianchun finally found De Yan's score, 1,890 points, which was 90 points higher than the passing score, which was considered a low score. The rankings continue to slide down, and dozens of people below have scores that overlap and rank in the same ranking. Especially when the passing score is close to 1,800 points, there are especially many candidates who have rescored. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the rankings overlap. As long as you pass the exam, it will be fine. Except for the top 100 students who will get some glory because they are on the list, those at the back will not care about the glory or not. The ranking is not the same, the most important thing is to pass the next martial arts test. A very typical example is De Yan. He wiped his sweat after coming out of the examination room. He was quite happy after passing more than 700 exams. He even saw Bai Qianchun grinning at her when she walked out of Building 1, showing her big white teeth and smiling very happily. Sweeping away the irritable temper before entering the examination room, Bai Qianchun walked over and looked at him, then walked over quickly with an expressionless face. Let's go, let's wait for Sukin at the school gate. Yes, De Yan put his hands in his pockets, looking bohemian, and responded with a smile on his lips, saying he had no objection. But just when he was about to turn around, his steps suddenly stopped. He glanced sharply in the direction behind Bai Qianchun and frowned slightly. What's wrong? Bai Qianchun asked suspiciously. De Yan narrowed his eyes and raised his chin in the direction behind her. Someone is staring at you. Bai Qianchun turned her head and glanced behind her, her eyes falling on Mu Tao, who had just walked out of Building 1. This man must have been ranked 12th after looking at the candidate rankings. Bai Qianchun nodded to him distantly, with a faint smile on her cold lips. Then she looked away and said to De Yan beside her, let's go. It's just that a competitor who can't compare with me is unwilling to give up. There is no threat. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 385. After the literary test, Bai Qianchun, De Yan, Sukan, and a familiar Quan Lang gathered at the school gate and ignored the curious, envious or jealous eyes around them, strolled back to the hotel, and then he closed the door and rested in his room, completely blocking out the prying eyes from the outside world. However, their side has calmed down, but the popularity on Star Network continues to explode. After the literary test is over, the live broadcast room is closed, and the melon-eating people watching the excitement turn to Star Network's hot search, and one by one acts as tap water. Browsing high-rise buildings were built in a hurry. Yolo, I didn't expect that my little heart would beat loudly just watching the literary test. The competition is so fierce. Struggling brother, yeah, I know Shengbiu, it is completely predictable to get the first place in the exam. As for the young master of the Sheng family, this boy has been one of the smart ones since he was a child. He is also handsome, has a good family background, and belongs to other people's families as a child. Being a neighbor with him makes me want to die. My parents catch me every day to learn from others, and then they catch me and make me learn to death. Wow, I really want to move. Zhao Xianxian Zipa, I still want to be a neighbor with such a handsome brother. Don't let me live here, instead hand over the coordinates of your home upstairs and we can play a life-swapping game. Don't worry, you let me convince my parents, they will definitely be happy to accept me. A caring little cotton-padded jacket who is loved by everyone and has flowers blooming. As for my parents, with my caring daughter to convince them, they will definitely be able to reluctantly accept you. What a troublesome little thing. Struggling brother, yeah, am I so bad? Doubt life JPG. Loves little Huajiao, ha ha ha, that's awesome. Actually I want to, but my home is a small apartment with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. The location where the young master of the Sheng family lives is definitely not cheap. After all, it has to be a small villa, otherwise, I would also like to exchange my life. Pudgy little flying pig, add 1. I heard your surname is Shen, add 1. Flowers blooming does not mean they fall, plus communication number. Xiaoqiang refuses to admit defeat. Hey, you idiots who only care about looks, you want me to say that although Sheng Biu is strong, the grassroots born by Qianchun who is ranked second is really awesome. Sheng Biu, what is his background? The Sheng family, the largest family in the Sheng family empire, has needed resources and teachers since he was a child. In addition, he has a smart mind. It would be a shame if he couldn't get the first place in the exam. But Bai Qianchun is different. She was born on the Muyuan star. Although Muyuan star has become very popular in the past year, a year ago, when our Muyuan star master who was famous for his pills didn't come, Muyuan star, the star on that planet, is poor in resources and broken down, even worse than an ordinary desolate star. The second place, Bai Qianchun, is ranked second in terms of ability over so many famous geniuses. She is definitely talented and extremely smart. As long as she is given time, she will definitely be stronger than Sheng Biu in the future. Xianyu, oh, my blood boils with excitement. I think so too. Miss Jianchun is really awesome. She has such good physical strength. She will definitely be able to pass the martial arts exam. I look forward to her performance in the martial arts exam. Su Qingfeng, hey, upstairs, upstairs, how do you know that Bai Jianchun is from the grassroots? Is it just her temperament that looks like a grassroots person? Flowers blooming does not mean they fall. Yes, yes, the young lady looks very elegant. She is more elegant than the pretentious ladies I have seen, and more like a noble woman from a big family. Little Princess Luluo, humph, a pheasant is a pheasant, and she still wants to compare with the phoenix. Why do you have glaucoma and good temperament? How can she not be lucky enough to have a good pregnancy? Xianyu, hey, why are you being so sarcastic? The little sister upstairs in front of you is telling the truth. Why are you so embarrassed when you jump out so quickly? I can tell at a glance that you are the pretentious noble girl that the sister in front of me said. You know how. What's wrong with reincarnation? Only when you have abilities can you be called truly capable. Little Princess Luluo, humph, how can she be considered capable? She can't compare to Sheng Biu, who was born into a noble family. Lowly people are just lowly people. She dreams of turning into a phoenix after going to the military academy. Bah, what a beautiful idea. She, when you get in front of me, you don't have to carry my shoes. Oh, if I don't like it, she won't even be qualified to carry my shoes. As soon as these words came out, it was like poking a hornet's nest, especially the civilians who exploded one after another. Even the passers-by who were just joining in the fun couldn't help but get angry and exploded. Chao Yang, damn it, what are you talking about, you bitch? Why are you humble when you are born a commoner? Nobles are amazing. It's all my fault that I'm too beautiful. That is, our first Marshal Huo, was also born as a civilian. How is his 31st army worse than the army formed by the nobles? Little Pepper, damn it, little Princess Greenflower, right, who can you show that you are showing off your superiority? Is this how the aristocrats are supposed to look down on others? If the aristocrats are all idiots like this, they will be stepped on by us commoners sooner or later underfoot. Life is like a play. I heard that the nobles in Congress are making frequent moves and want to replace civilian representatives with people arranged by their nobles. Do they also look down on us civilians and want to deprive us of our rights to heaven and democracy? Little Pepper, I know the inside story about this. I heard that the fourth prince wants to replace civilians in the Congress and install his own people. Life is like a play, is that so? It turns out it's him. I've heard before that the fourth prince is a humble and gentle person. The Star Network also reported that he has done many good things. I didn't expect that he would do such a thing in private. It's really, I know people well but don't know their hearts in vain. I thought that the fourth prince was a good person and more suitable to be a crown prince than the mediocre imperial prince with no reputation. The crows in the world are as black as black, huh? I know that these people who are trying to gain a reputation are not good people. It is true. No, I am going to write a protest if the Congress is really replaced by the fourth prince. Other nobles will be replaced in the future if we follow the same example. There will be no place for us civilians to stand in the future. It really can't be added, just, the protest letter adds me as a brother. Little Pepper, add 1. Life is like a play, add 1. Therefore, the heated discussion that originally broke out because of the end of the literary test at the first military academy turned around and mentioned the recent Congress. After that, Shen Junhao, who came from the Shen family of the fourth prince's mother's family, even scored in the top 20. Both brother and sister Shen Junyi were affected. Not only did they not receive flowers and applause for doing well in the exam, they were also implicated and suffered countless scoldings. The nobles of aristocratic families who were originally extremely prosperous became in the blink of an eye a rat that countless civilians on the Star Network shouted to beat. As soon as this happened, not only Shen Junhao and Shen Junyi were furious, but the Shen family was also furious. The fourth prince behind the Shen family was even more angry with his hair standing on end, and his face was ferocious. Who did it? Check, let me check for this prince. This matter is definitely not an accident. Someone must have taken the opportunity to deliberately guide it. There is also Bai Qianchun, who came second in the exam. Let me check for it. Since she was the trigger of the incident, she might also be involved. It's related to the people behind it? Yes, his subordinates responded respectfully. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 386. Bai Qianchun, who still didn't know that she was being watched, was browsing the Star Network in her room, watching the excitement and eating melon with gusto. She had known for a long time that the fourth prince was interfering in the Congress. No matter who was behind the explosion of Star Network civilians and for what interests, it was a good thing no matter how you looked at it. Now that the matter has been exposed, in order to appease the common people, the Congress will definitely be purged, and the civilian representatives in the Congress will be more carefully selected. It is impossible for anyone to try to put people in it in a short time. In this way, there are many people who may be behind this matter. The possibility of the imperial prince Jin Yuchun, who is regarded as the enemy by the fourth prince Jin Yurun, is the first to bear the brunt of the possibility. After all, there is no room for others to sleep on the side of the bed. Jin Yurun is jumping up and down to seize power. The one who suffered the most direct impact on interests was Jin Yuchun, and he had enough reasons to take action. In addition, there is the Lin family, the power of the fifth prince. They have been at odds with the Shen family for a long time. This plan will lower the reputation of the fourth prince. This will give the fifth prince an opportunity, so there is no possibility that the Lin family is responsible. After that, there are the Shui family, the Sheng family, and even the Feng family. Because there are four princes, the Shen family has been getting up and shaking recently, and it has threatened their family's status. They have taken action to weaken the Shen family's power. Possible. Bai Qianchun pursed her lips and thought, while talking to Feng Yuyu across from her about her speculation. Now that she has arrived at the main star and is in it, this time she was caught off guard and became the trigger of a power dispute. Therefore, although she did not actively participate in the chess game, she took the initiative to analyze the chess game. Whether it's chess or the path she's going to take, it's not a bad thing to prepare early. Feng Yuyu cleaned up his slovenly appearance in the afternoon after not taking a shower for several days. He shaved and took a shower. At the moment, he was wearing a loose black satin pajamas and lazily leaning on the bedside. His black hair was stained with moisture. A pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes looked at the person on the screen opposite, with a lazy smile on his thin lips. You guessed it right. Qin Yurun and the Shen family probably guessed the same way. However, My cousin and the Feng family definitely didn't take action. We are busy and have no time to play with Qin Yurun's idiot jumping up and down. If my cousin takes action, that's a thunderous critical strike, which directly knocks people to the bottom. It won't just cut people's hair and peel them like this, and it won't even hurt their muscles and bones. Bai Qianchun raised her eyebrows. You mean, the public opinion on this matter will subside soon? Feng Yuyu's lips curled up slightly, looking at her pretty little head with admiration. Well, the conflict between civilians and nobles has always existed in the empire. The people who instigated this time to use force to attack Qin Yurun are just those few families, but they are also nobles. It will not do them any good if this matter gets too big, so after the matter on the Congress side is resolved, this matter on the Star Network will soon be suppressed. Bai Qianchun nodded understandingly. After that, Feng Yuyu mentioned Marshal D again. I can invite him to come over for a martial meeting in the name of my grandfather. Then you go with me. Maybe you can gain his trust and help him cure his illness. It will be easier for you to take over the 9th Legion in the future. Bai Qianchun smiled and shook her head. No need, I have a better way to get close to him and treat him without making people suspicious. Feng Yuyu's expression became serious. What can we do? Bai Qianchun curled her lips and smiled. The Muyuan star farming game was launched 2 days ago. You can let people in your legion play together. If you pass the test, you will be given free pills. Feng Yuyu's eyes lit up. I will definitely let those monkey boys come to support me. A few days ago, we went to explore the void area of the universe where there is no signal, and we also encountered a group of interstellar pirates. I haven't had time to read the news from you. Bai Qianchun's eyes flashed. The universe is empty without signals. Cut off all contact with the outside world. Are you going to test the group of people who are most likely to have problems? Feng Yuyu narrowed her peach blossom eyes fondly. I really can't hide anything from you. We are indeed going to test the last group of people. I was just planning to tell you about it. Some of them drank the red silk cell attractant. Something's not right. Bai Qianchun became serious. What's going on? What's wrong? Feng Yuyu gathered up his open nightgown, and his face became more serious, and even showed a solemn look. A few of them had splitting headaches after drinking the attractant, and they looked very painful, which is the same as when His Highness the Prince drank it. The appearance of the attractant was very similar, but different. After a painful struggle, those people showed some orcish characteristics on their bodies, such as orangutan hair, which was black and hard and grew in different parts. There was even a beastly roar coming from his throat. With such an obvious feature, Feng Yuyu became even more convinced of Bai Qianchun's original speculation that the red silk cells were probably related to the Orc Empire. Bai Qianchun also frowned, with a surprised expression on his face. As far as she knew, red thread cells did not have the effect of making people have orcish characteristics, but the abnormal characteristics that appeared after drinking the attractant meant that the abnormalities in those people's bodies were indeed inseparable from the red thread cells. Could it be an evolved version of red filament cells? What about those people now? I have to take the martial arts exam tomorrow and I can't get away. Feng Yuyu comforted her. Don't be so anxious. You take the exam first. We haven't returned to the main star yet. We won't arrive in a few days. As for those people who can't die yet, I've asked people to prepare a big healing pill. Now they have nothing but they have a splitting headache, and despite the orcish characteristics appearing on their bodies, their lives are still guaranteed, and the situation seems to be improving and easing. As long as they no longer give them attractants, their situation should be stable. That's good. Bai Qianchun breathed a sigh of relief and was a little curious at the same time, wanting to study the evolved red silk cells. After talking about the business, Feng Yuyu's face softened again. Okay, it's time for you to go to sleep. You have a martial arts test tomorrow, so go to bed early to regain your energy. Bai Qianchun raised her eyes and glanced at him, and yawned subconsciously. Watery tears appeared in her eyes, softening her face that was particularly cold after taking the Yongdan. Her whole person became much more well-behaved. Fenyuyu's eyes became softer and softer. She snorted softly and said hello to him. "Okay, I'm going to bed. You seem to be very tired looking like that, so you should go to bed early." Fenyuyu's thin lips opened in a silly manner, and a low laughter escaped from her throat. She was in a good mood, she took the initiative to care about him, and her efforts to please him this year were not in vain. He firmly believed that he would never lick the dog until there was nothing left. As Yao Wengxian said, he would definitely have everything after licking it until the end. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 387. At dawn the next day, Bai Qianshun, Su Kan, Di Yan, and Quan Lang gathered in the hotel lobby. Quan Lang came over with a gossipy look on his handsome face. "Have you heard about what happened on the Star Network yesterday?" Di Yan glanced at him, his unruly face showing some interest. "Congress matters." Quan Lang's eyes were shining and he nodded cheerfully. Yes, that's it. I heard that the Congress was thoroughly investigated and purged last night, and all the people who were originally placed there were kicked out in despair. Instead of the civilians who were originally replaced, those little nobles who rolled down the stage in dejection will have to suffer a lot." When he said this, he did not hide his gloating at all. "Speaking of which, it's all thanks to Miss Bai's popularity. Otherwise, why would this matter have become such a big fuss and have the superiors handle it overnight?" Quan Lang sighed with emotion. Su Kan's shy and gentle face wrinkled up now, and he glanced at him disapprovingly. "Brother Quan, this happened premeditatedly, and it's none of Miss Bai's business." Di Yan also reacted quickly, frowning and nodding. "Yes, what does the important matter of the empire have to do with an ordinary candidate? Don't say this nonsense. If the fourth prince's people hear it, it will bring trouble to Bai Qianshun." Quan Lang saw the two of them looking more serious than the other, and immediately realized that what he said was inappropriate. He quickly turned his head and looked around for a few times. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that no one was paying attention to them, and then felt embarrassed. He apologized angrily to Bai Qianshun. I didn't think so much. I'm sorry, I almost got you in trouble." Bai Qianshun didn't have any sense of crisis. She just said lightly, "It doesn't matter. Let's go to the first military academy first. The exam time is coming soon." Yes, hurry up and go to the military academy," Quan Lang responded quickly, holding on to the embarrassment on his face, and then quickly turned around and walked out of the hotel, trying to prove that as long as I ran fast, embarrassment could not catch up with my fantasy. But unexpectedly, when he was approaching the revolving glass door of the hotel, someone suddenly jumped out. Quan Lang, who had just turned his head, didn't have time to react, and his eyes widened in surprise before he collided with the person who jumped out. Under the influence of the rebound force, the two people immediately staggered a few times in the opposite direction. The man opposite Quan Lang was even worse. He hit the revolving glass door of the hotel with a loud squeak. Everyone passing by looked over. Master Joe, are you okay?" A group of people behind him came running over and shouted anxiously, suppressing the apology that Quan Lang was about to blurt out after he stood firm. Di Yan's ears twitched and he looked towards the person who was being slapped against the revolving glass door. Sure enough, he saw the familiar gloomy face and his originally slicked back hair swaying down, giving him a good image of a noble young master. Nothing. Suddenly he couldn't hold back the smile on his face. Zhou Lang threw away the follower who came to hold his arm. His face was ugly, and he walked towards Bai Qianshun and others angrily. His eyes were burning. He didn't look at Quan Lang, the person who collided with him. Instead, he directed all his anger at Di Yan. "Go, Di Yan, if you have the guts, just fight with me openly. What are you doing by sending a henchman to hit me? Huh, when did you Diane become so unscrupulous and secretly do something small? I tell you, you want to destroy me? No way, sooner or later my father will take over your father's position, and sooner or later you will be trampled under my feet. Quan Lang, what a bitch. Is this talking about him? I'm afraid this kid has some serious mental illness. Is he as handsome and suave as a bitch? Quan Lang felt indignant and couldn't say what he wanted to say to apologize. Besides, it wasn't entirely his fault that such an accident happened. Although he turned around a little anxiously, in the final analysis, it was the kid who made the mistake himself. It was too fast and too sudden, and it hit him directly. After that, his skinny little body was not heavy enough, and the lower body was not stable enough. He was bounced against the glass revolving door and went up. What does it have to do with him, an ordinary handsome guy? Son. Quan Lang decided not to apologize. Diane frowned and looked at Zhou Lang with an unhappy expression, with a hint of ferocity in his eyes. He said he was okay. Anyway, Zhou Lang had never said anything nice since he was a child. He had long been used to it. But he said his dad was not good, especially since his dad had an accident before. Uncle Joe, who he originally thought was kind and amiable, was even more. It was because he had turned against others a while ago and wanted to force his father to give up his position. His father had given up all the brotherly love for Uncle Joe. Neither father nor son of the Joe family are good people. Thinking like this, Diane's mood gradually became violent, his fists clenched loudly, his eyes became fierce, and he wanted to punch Zhou Lang's arrogant and proud face. But before he took action, Bai Qianchun held his shoulder with one hand. She glanced around the lobby with her dark eyes. She looked at a few muscular people for 2 seconds, and then spoke in a cold voice. Rand said, "Don't start a conflict here. It's not worth wasting time on such a person. The martial arts test in a while is more important." Diane's body stiffened, and the anger in his heart seemed to be extinguished by a basin of cold water. Then he looked at Zhou Lang, who looked across from him and said, "Hit me, hit me." He frowned and took several deep breaths to calm down. Bai Qianchun reminded him that Zhou Lang must be surrounded by people who protect him. It would not be a good thing for him to have a conflict with him now. If those people took advantage of the chaos and attacked him, he would be injured. Not being able to pass the first military academy exam would be more of a loss than a gain for him. Now his father can't protect himself, and it's difficult to protect himself anymore. Only by entering the first military academy and having the first military academy to protect him can he not be a burden to his father and make those people scrupulous and not do anything to him. So now it is a top priority for him to enter the first military academy. Diane thought to himself, and shouted angrily at Zhou Lang in front of him, "Zhou Lang, how dare you open your mouth to frame people? Benevolent people see kindness, and adulterers see adultery. Do you really think that I can't do it alone like you? You're doing something behind the scenes. Who knew that person was you when you popped out just now? I don't care about scheming against you." "Huh, forget it. You don't have to quibble. You and I know the truth. I'm too lazy to tell you. Waste your words, get out of the way, we're going to take the exam." With that said, Diane walked over directly without turning around, knocking Zhou Lang, who was blocking the front and staggering, and walked out the door in a swagger. Quan Lang and Su Ken saw this and hurriedly followed. Bai Qianchun glanced at Zhou Lang, who had blue veins popping out on his forehead in anger, jumping up and down, and cursing and venting behind Diane's back. He shook his head inwardly. The temper of this irritable sky monkey was not very good. He would explode at the slightest moment. Like a man capable of great things. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 388. Following the message instructions on the optical brain, the candidates walked across the first military academy and came to an open area in the mountains behind the first military academy. That is the large open space in front of the entrance to the virgin forest. The virgin forest in front is a special examination room for candidates from major military academies. It has not been cleaned and is even carefully maintained. There are all kinds of beasts and poisonous creatures growing in it, as well as countless strange, dangerous, and even deadly plants. If you are careful, your life will be lost. Candidates who take the military academy examination every year must go through this wild and dangerous baptism before they can be considered a true success and are qualified to enter the military academy. And every year, candidates will suffer some injuries there. More or less minor injuries and serious injuries are considered trivial matters. The occurrence of human life is a real big deal, but such major events often happen, and the military academy cannot completely guarantee the safety of candidates. This is also the reason why the first military academy asked them to sign a life and death contract before the exam. Entering the military academy means that you will take an extremely dangerous path in the future. Once the front line is tight and the empire calls for recruitment, the cadets in the military academy must respond to the call as long as there is no sufficient reason. Therefore, during the entrance examination of the military academy, all candidates will be given a showdown to let them see what cruelty is. The entrance exam is just an appetizer. From now on, the military academy will have practical classes every year to teach them what it is like to fight in the wild, survive in the wild, and what cruel war is like. In this way, students who have experienced the bloody baptism can keep up with the pace after they come out. Once recruited, they can be put into use and fight immediately. Ding dong, welcome to the entrance of the martial arts examination. Mechas, light energy guns and other thermal weapons are not allowed to be brought into this martial arts examination. If candidates have thermal weapons, please take the initiative to hand them over to the academy at the entrance. The teacher keeps it and will return it completely after the candidates come out. If a candidate violates the test rules by bringing a thermal weapon and using it, his or her qualification for the martial arts test will be cancelled. At the entrance, there was a huge crowd of candidates. Even though 7,000 or 8,000 people were eliminated from the literary test yesterday, there are still more than 10,000 candidates left to take part today. At this moment, everyone was chatting in a lively manner, and it was difficult for people to move around in the crowd, so only a few people handed in their weapons in the past. Bai Qianchun and the others arrived late and were pushed to the back of the crowd. Unfortunately, Zhou Lang, who also arrived late, was not far away from them. Di Yan frowned in that direction, then looked away and asked the people around him, "Do you have any illegal weapons on you?" "I brought a mecha, do you want to go over there and hand it in together?" Quan Lang nodded, "I also brought a mecha for self-defense and 2 energy weapons, but there are so many people now that I can't see where the teacher is. How can I pay this?" After finishing speaking, he turned back to look at Su Ken and Bai Qianchun. "Hey, where are you?" Bai Qianchun and Su Ken looked at each other, and then said coldly, "I can't afford it." Su Ken also nodded shyly, "Me too." Di Yan glanced at Bai Qianchun emphatically. Would someone who could earn a small 100,000 a day selling fruit on a starship not be able to afford it? And Su Ken, his family is obviously his creditor, but why is it that Su Ken is a poor boy and he seems to be a rich man? Quan Lang, who didn't know the truth, looked at him in shock and surprise. With their appearance and temperament, they didn't look like people who couldn't afford it. But this was a private matter, so Quan Lang had to suppress his curiosity and keep his mouth shut. No questions asked. Bai Qianchun ignored the 2 looks and narrowed her eyes at the crowd. "If you want to hand it in, just wait. There are too many people now and others can't squeeze in to hand it in. The college will make arrangements." Hearing this, Di Yan and Quan Lang nodded obediently. "Oh, it's up to you, then wait a moment." Not long after he finished speaking, the school's notice came as expected. Ding dong, due to the disorderly order of the candidates, the military academy will take new measures and start to form the team. Now candidates are asked to line up according to the ranking of yesterday's literary test. The queue starts from the open field on the left. The top 10 students are asked to get in place quickly. Quan Lang of the 293 RD. Di Yan of the 783 RD. The two of them both turned to look at Bai Qianchun and Su Kan, the two top 5 players, and felt sad. Although they didn't have mechas or thermal weapons, they still had points. Moreover, in the next martial arts test, the mecha, thermal weapons and the like were completely useless, and the winners were still the two of them. They didn't say much when they left. The virgin forest was huge, and the military academy would divide the examination rooms for them. The candidates would be randomly selected to enter any one. They might not be assigned to the same examination room. Although there is no clear stipulation that the examination room cannot be crossed, it is very difficult to cross the examination room across the area in such a dangerous virgin forest, and it is also thankless. Most people rarely take exams across the examination room. Therefore, it is useless for them to communicate at the moment. Who knows which examination room they will be sent to? It may even be one in the south or one in the north. If this is the case, even if they spend all their time traveling during the martial arts examination, they may not be merged. Bai Qianchun and Su Kan waved to Di Yan and then went to line up casually. After walking over and leaving the crowded crowd, the line of sight in front of them suddenly opened up. They followed the instructions and came to the far left side to line up. At this time, except for her and Su Kan, the other 8 people were all here. All 8 people had good temperament and were all like the proud sons of heaven. However, among the 8 people, Bai Qianchun was the first to pay attention. He turned towards one of the girls wearing red training clothes. Among the top 10 in the literary test yesterday, in addition to Bai Qianchun herself being a girl, there was another girl named Lin Guiyan, rank 6th, who came from behind. According to people who posted later, she was also a fierce person. If not for running when she was in school, she was maliciously pestered by another girl, which slowed her down and prevented her from arriving at the exam room on time. The exam time was a few minutes shorter than others. Maybe her current score in the liberal arts exam is even higher, and she may be able to make progress. Perhaps because of this, the eldest lady's face was not very good at the moment. She frowned, her beautiful and bright face was raised in an open manner, her black ponytail was tied high, and she was wearing a gorgeous red training uniform that was particularly eye-catching. Just like a proud young lady. But this proud young lady has a good temperament, and she is not an ordinary proud young lady. Facing the eldest lady's frowning gaze, Bai Qianchun's eyes paused for a moment, her face still cold and unruffled. She walked forward and walked to the second position to stand. Then she ignored the burning gazes from the people behind her, and her eyes fell on Shen Biu, who was in front of her. Shen Biu was standing to the side, wearing a black training suit. He was tall, long-legged, and tall. He had the dashing demeanor of the Sheng family. At this time, his handsome face, which was somewhat similar to Shen Beining's, had a dull expression. With an indifferent expression. If you look carefully, you can also notice that his eyes have no focus, and he seems to be in a daze. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 389. Jojo Yura, the top 10 are all gathered together. Everyone has such good temperament. The temperament of a top student is just different from those behind them. It's so good looking, a visual feast, a visual feast. My mouth is watering. Everyone in the top 10 looks good, including the genius man, the shy scholar, the sunshine boy, the aloof goddess Liwaziahuawa. The first place is Shen Biu, our senior Shen Beining's younger brother. Needless to say, Senior Shengbeining's record in our first military academy back then, our younger brother must be as good as her. Our brother is stunned now, he must be thinking about the philosophy of life. Lemon tea, no, he should be carefully analyzing how to win in his mind. Geniuses like him are definitely different from ordinary people like us, and what they are thinking in their minds must be all useful things. A chicken leg, I look forward to our brother showing off his skills and killing everyone. Shengbei was in a daze. He suddenly sneezed, looking around blankly, and then his eyes fell on Bai Qianshun, who was looking at him. He was stunned, and his voice sounded slowly, "Hello." Bai Qianshun was stunned, with a hint of suspicion on her cold face, but in the eyes of others, she replied calmly, "Hello." Then, and then no more. One turned his head and continued to be in a daze, while the other continued to look at the scenery with a cold and indifferent expression. This made a group of spectators who were waiting with bated breath for the first and second place to have sex and create different sparks, as well as the candidates behind them, looked confused. That's it, that's it? The agreed upon first and second place players are at odds with each other, and they declare war as soon as they disagree. The result was so unremarkable, and it passed by calmly. This is not as good as the performances of the third and fifth cousins from the Shui family. Look at the two brothers from the Shui family. Although one and the other are talented, personable, and have easygoing smiles, and they are blessing each other for third and fifth place in the exam, everyone can hear the irritation and words between the lines. The hidden advantage in the game. The onlookers could clearly feel from their smiles what it means to hide a sword in a smile, the glint of a sword and the shadow of a sword. It was pitiful for Sukan, the fourth person among them, who had to survive in the gap between the two, shivering. The onlookers felt pity for a while. How did this poor little guy, who looked weak and helpless at first glance, get caught in the middle? Fortunately, poor Sukan didn't tremble for long, and the whole team was quickly finished. Then another notice from the first military academy came to Guang's mind. Ding dong, the whole team has been completed. Candidates, please look to the left. There are 20 underground passages here that will lead to 20 special airships for candidates. The airships will take the candidates to the assigned specific examination room. Now the random selection of examination rooms will begin. Candidates are asked to walk to the corresponding digital channel and go to the special flying boat according to the selected number. If you deliberately go the wrong way or are late, you will be disqualified from the exam. The random drawing starts now. Bai Qianshun raised her eyes and looked at the light screen emerging in mid-air, with a multi-sided die spinning on it. Finally, the die stopped on the number 1. It means that she will enter the first underground passage and go to the number 1 Fiashu number 1 examination room. Ding dong, the random selection has been completed. Candidates are now asked to enter the examination room in order. Hey, teacher, I haven't handed over my weapons yet, can I just go in now? When Bai Qianshun heard the sound, he looked over and saw Ye Yang, who was rank 7th, smiling and showing his little fangs, actively asking questions. Standing not far away from them, a man with a cold and strong temperament, that is, the college teacher, shot a pair of sharp eagle eyes in their direction. The candidates suddenly felt their hairs stand on end and subconsciously leaned back, especially the proud men who lined up in front and behind Ye Yang. All looked at Ye Yang with strange eyes. Boy, how brave! Ye Yang didn't know why, scratched his head, and continued to wait for the teacher's answer with a smile. Have you passed the exam today? Wow, amazing, amazing, this fair and tender young boy has something. That teacher is Suke, General Suke, the so-called battlefield meat grinder. The mecha killed a team of thousands of heroes from the Orc Empire, one of the most powerful ones. It is said that he killed many people at that time, and almost killed all the members of his own team. I don't know what happened to the first military academy. What happened was that he was actually invited to be a teacher. Have you finished memorizing the parameters of the mecha today? Woo-hoo-hoo. This little boy doesn't know how ferocious General Su is. General Su is so majestic and majestic that not only the Orc Empire is frightened by it, but even the soldiers under him are frightened by it. It is said that all the soldiers under his command were bald due to his training. Each of them almost lost an arm or a leg. They were almost discharged due to injury and went home to eat themselves. I don't know which class the school hired him to teach. I'm guessing blindly. They are from the 5th year, and the 5th year belongs to graduates. It is time for General Su to teach them what the cruelty of the battlefield is. I'm about to graduate. No, I don't want to go home with broken arms and legs to eat myself. Goodbye. It's not too late to burn incense now. Wow, I still want to have good arms and legs after graduation and go to the Legion to make money. Love to eat rice. There are only one sentence in 1,000 words. Little boy, you are so brave. Suke looked at his innocent and confused look, and a dark light flashed across his deep and cold eyes. This kid is quite courageous. Then his hoarse and deep voice sounded with the coldness of gunpowder smoke. There will be instructions after we get on the airship. Wait. Oh, thank you teacher. Yang smiled with a bright face, not paying attention to the teacher's cold tone. He ignored the people around him who looked at him like he was looking at a suicide squad, and then followed the team in front of him and walked towards him randomly. Go out the passage. No 8. At this end, Bai Qianchun had already withdrew her gaze and watched Shen Biu, who was in front of her, enter the number 2 aisle next to her, and then she also walked into the number 1 aisle. The passage was very dark. It was an underground passage, and there was only a row of floor lamps at the feet that were not very bright. She was the first one to walk in. There was no one in front of her, but the footsteps behind her gradually came, from one to countless that became messy and noisy. But Bai Qianchun soon had time to listen to the footsteps, because the radio sound and the optical brain notification came simultaneously, and continued to sound while they were walking. Ding dong, now announce the rules of the martial arts exam. 1. It is emphasized that during the exam, mecha energy guns and other highly lethal thermal weapons are not allowed to be used. After arriving at the flying boat, candidates are required to voluntarily hand in the space button and receive the material package prepared by the school. Note that if a candidate illegally hides thermal weapons or brings his own space buttons and other materials, it will be considered cheating and the candidate will be disqualified from taking the exam. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 390. 2. Candidates are not allowed to change the examination room in any way during the transportation of the flying boat. Candidates can go to other examination rooms across regions after they are dropped off at the examination room. 3. The same material boxes will be placed in each examination room, and candidates are asked to obtain them according to their ability. 4. The martial arts test lasts for 10 days, and no early withdrawal is allowed. 5. Candidates with different majors have different tasks. Candidates with the same major also have different tasks. Each candidate will have 5 tasks assigned by the military academy, of which 1 is a required task and 4 are optional tasks. Candidates need to complete 1 only the required tasks, and the 3 optional tasks can be considered as passing the first level of basic assessment, and are eligible to enter the first military academy and become military students. The tasks will be issued after the candidates are placed in the examination room. 6. There is also competition among candidates during the exam. Each candidate will have a number plate provided by the military school. Each candidate's number plate won by another candidate will increase 1 point of general points. The points will be included in the candidate's points value in the military school in the future. After the exam is completed, the total score is calculated based on the number plate in the candidate's hand. In the end, the first military academy will admit the candidates who have completed the 4 tasks of the first level and have the top 500 points as freshmen. Friendly reminder, universal points are the common currency within the military academy. After entering the military academy, universal points will be used for transactions, replacing external star currency transactions. In other words, after entering the military academy, everything will be equal and they will start over. No matter how rich you are outside, if you want to obtain the resources provided by the school after entering the military academy, You have to earn general points again through your own efforts. Redeem for purchase. This is undoubtedly good news for poor students. Through this, it will greatly improve the gap between the rich and the poor among students and the differences between aristocrats and common people caused by the wealth gap, and reduce unnecessary class conflicts. Bai Qianchun quite agreed and was optimistic about this. The reason why she chose the military academy before was that it was a good place to study because it had such a new and fair rule. Although there are still many loopholes to exploit under this new rule, it is already very good in this empire where nobles and commoners are already deeply entrenched. After the broadcast was completed, Bai Qianchun just finished walking through the underground passage and arrived at Fiashu. There is a huge open space on the flying boat, with scattered chairs for sitting on it. An entry search point and a material distribution point are also set up at the entrance of the flying boat. The first level is the search point. A middle-aged female teacher stood there with an expressionless face and looked at Bai Qianchun, who walked in. Behind her, a tall robot with a round head and round brain began to explain the situation in a robotic voice. Please take out the test takers voluntarily. The space is connected to all materials. If the candidate hides materials or anything privately, the candidate will be disqualified from taking the exam. Candidates are asked to actively cooperate. Yes, Bai Qianchun responded lightly. Under the cold supervision of the middle-aged female teacher in front of her and the curious gazes of the students who had been arriving one after another behind her, she pulled it from her neck without expression. He took off a jade pendant and took out a beautiful jade bracelet from his wrist. Then he took out a gold needle bag and several porcelain bottles from his pocket, put them behind the silver lotus bracelet on his right wrist, and put the silver bracelet into the empty bag opened by the robot. Just when the students were sighing that the girl in second place was quite rich, they saw her continue to dig into her pockets and took out a gem brooch, a leaf brooch, a key-shaped brooch, a musical note diamond brooch and an emerald brooch. Ding-ding sounds sounded one after another, and the small transparent bag in the robot's hand was filled. The candidates, who were crowded with more and more people behind them, were dumbfounded. Oh my God, this cool-looking second place actually likes brooches so much. However, this is not the point. The point is that there are so many space buttons, and these space buttons are so damn expensive. Not to mention the value of the space button itself. Let's just say that the gems, diamonds, and emeralds decorated on the surface of the space button are worth money. If they could just steal one, it would ensure that they wouldn't have to worry about eating and drinking for hundreds of years in the rest of their lives. So they looked at Bai Qianchun with gradually awe. This sister is a super rich man. Even the expressionless middle-aged female teacher's face changed slightly, and she looked at Bai Qianchun with a bit of envy. Quan Lang, who was hurriedly coming from behind and was squeezed among countless candidates, saw this scene and his eyes turned green. Woohoo, he felt that he had been greatly deceived. What if he didn't have the money to buy thermal weapons or mechas as promised? Just take out 2 space buttons here and you can buy them. Bai Qianchun didn't notice the envious, jealous, and sad eyes behind her. After taking the last jade brooch, she signaled to the female teacher that she had finished handing it over. I didn't care about those space buttons at all. In fact, she didn't buy these fancy space buttons herself, they were given by Feng Yuyu. After giving away the jewelry, the man Feng Yuyu saw that she found it troublesome and didn't like these gadgets, so he specially invested in a spatial nexus laboratory under the Feng group to combine expensive jewelry with spatial nexus, which was both beautiful and beautiful. Practical. No, don't mention it. After this new idea came out, Feng's group's space news business soared. After the combination of expensive jewelry and space buttons, it became the favorite of many noble ladies. They all abandoned the simple and plain version of space buttons and bought Feng's expensive jewelry space buttons. I have to say that this operation was really unintentional. Not only did Feng Yuyu not lose money because of his investment to pamper his wife, but he also made money. Yao Wengxian, who was deeply worried about Feng Yuyu's love brain, also breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect that the love brain has such benefits. Later, Bai Qianchun gradually accepted these fancy space buttons. Other gem necklaces, belts, and hairbands, etc. were too grand and not suitable for ordinary wear. She stayed on Wuyuan planet without bringing them with her. Some are relatively less flashy and suitable for everyday wear. In particular, brooches are the best to wear. You can wear them on any outfit without looking cumbersome. You can choose a brooch to match with any outfit, which is very convenient, so she has the most space for brooches. She had changed into a set of training clothes before, so in order not to look high profile, she put these space buttons in her pockets and did not wear them outside. Unexpectedly, when she handed them over, she would still look high profile. Bai Qianchun sighed inwardly, but didn't pay much attention. The female teacher calmed down her hatred of the rich, patted the robot beside her, and asked it to seal and place these things. Then she arranged for another robot to come over and scan Bai Qianchun's whole body to confirm that she did not have any space on her body. She was then allowed in after removing the new items and other illegal items.